Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and it's been I've taken a bit of a break. It's been about a month since the last episode. I had an episode planned to go out, but the audio was lost, unfortunately. So that episode just isn't. It is not a thing. So unfortunately, that's why there hasn't been an episode in about a month or so. But I'm back, and joining me for this week's episode, returning Mr. Harry Jobson, as he has on so many occasions.
The king has returned. I was moving house, sorry. But now I have a new kingdom, a new domain, a new Mojo Dojo Casa house.
And also returning guest, who since the last time he's appeared, has started his own podcast, and I'm going to take credit for inspiring him.
It's true.
Because...
yeah, I'll give you that.
the returning Ben Langford.
Hello. I love talking about DreamWorks movies on here.
And this is the first time I think I am ever covering a DreamWorks film on this podcast, and I know, Harry, you must be so excited for this.
I'm really happy, but hearing that stat really makes me angry. DreamWorks is so clear of Disney; it's insane. Disney Pixar, like
for our first discussion on Pixar, not Pixar, fucking DreamWorks. DreamWorks. Talking about the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. It soon will not be a trilogy. And I'm very worried about that fact because I like all three of these. In it. And that is true. Aquafina, I do not enjoy seeing things, but
that's why I'm worried.
Are you forgetting that we talked about Chicken Run, William?
Oh yeah, is that DreamWorks?
Yeah, but that's fringe. Yeah, but that's fringe. That's like it's the same.
It's like half. Technically it is, but it's like half DreamWorks, half Aardman. But
because I think
this is a full DreamWorks.
This is like proper straight from DreamWorks. It's no collaboration.
Because I think we've spoken about like live action DreamWorks films as well. So
we're going to be talking about the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. Now, just to let you all in on something, Ben has. I don't know how long this is going to go for because Ben has to leave because we're in different time zones, but we're going to focus most of the discussion on the first two because I think the first two are the ones that are interesting to talk about. And I don't dislike the third one. I don't dislike any of these films, to be completely honest. It's just that the third one is the least interesting. I think we can all agree it's the least interesting, right? The third one is...
I'd agree, yeah.
Yeah, but it's got the best score, like...
Okay,
perhaps.
Well, going into the first Kung Fu Panda, DreamWorks, they'd been around for a little while. They'd done, 3 Shrek films by this point. Shrek the Third had come out by this point. They'd done... Correct. They'd collaborated with Aardman. They'd done Ants. Yeah, they'd done a few things. They weren't like... I don't think DreamWorks...
Did they do Madagascar?
Yeah, Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, they had, hadn't they? Yeah, they'd done Madagascar.
Madagascar was like the first or the second proper trilogy because you had Shrek, then Madagascar.
There's B-movie was before this.
Oh, the B-movie, to be fair, greatest film ever made. So
yeah. DreamWorks had been around. This was like they were in their.
DreamWorks had been around. Yeah, they'd been doing this for a while, but I feel like DreamWorks as a studio, they never have been able to hit. Like, they get tons of praise. Like, people love DreamWorks films. People love the Shrek films. People love the Kung Fu Panda films. But they never quite get to the level of, like, Pixar or Disney in terms of... I don't know, like, what the highest grossing DreamWorks film is. I feel like one of them must have crossed...
No, but I think that's flipped. But, yeah, no, it would be... Yeah, probably Shrek 2. But I think, especially nowadays... that the idea that DreamWorks is not hitting the level financially that Pixar was is fully flipped. Because if you've watched a modern Pixar film, I think the last Pixar film I actually enjoyed watching was Soul. DreamWorks just seems a lot more mature. Like if I'm going to sit back as like a 21-year-old man and watch Toy Story, it's going to be for like a nostalgia or if my nephew's around. but I can go what
I would
like
disagree.
I understand it. Yeah, there are bits in it that oh, maybe not Toy Story. Toy Story is like a bad example.
Toy Story's a bit, yeah. But there's
Well, I
certain
don't know.
Pixar
Toy
films
Story's
that
timeless.
you can...
Actually, I've convinced myself the other way around because I'm thinking about Pixar films that like I think are a bit. And I was going to say A Bug's Life, but that might be like one of my all-time favorites. But I'm just going through.
I'd say Pixar has the more mature sensibilities than DreamWorks. Honestly, DreamWorks is like a good time. Like if you're just like, hanging with Shrek and Donkey and the Madagascar crew. But those like early Pixar movies, those really hit you like a deeper human way. That feels a lot more long-lasting.
Well, you are right. Yeah, I think a good example might be something like
if we're gonna say like Cars,
like Onward. Onward. I saw it I saw Onward once, and I thought that's enough.
Yeah,
that's enough. Whereas
Onward is very mid,
but I can watch Megamind a million times over. Like I think I've actually watched it already twice this year, and it's halfway through February.
Yeah, so you find DreamWorks to be a more rewatchable, because I don't rewatch films in general, but if I had to rewatch, I'd probably pick a Pixar film over a DreamWorks. Yeah. Depends, of course. Like it depends. Like if I'm given two films, it depends which ones it is. Really, like if it's like Shrek or like A Bug's Life, I'm picking Shrek. But if you've got like Wall-E versus,
I think it's kind of I think it comes down to the talent that DreamWorks has in their roster. That's not to say, obviously, like Tim Allen and like Tom Hanks and like aren't great comedically, like Owen Wilson. But take for example the cast of Madagascar. Like three of the main four of them are comedian. You got Chris Rock, Ben Stiller, David Schwimmer, and I was trying to think of Gloria, but I couldn't think of
Jada Pinkett Smith. See, but like that's the thing is I only hear the voice actors, and that's something I can kind of have an issue with Kung Fu Panda as well. Is like I feel like Pixar isn't as reliant on like big voice actors. Obviously, they get them. Like Tom Hanks is a big actor, but I feel I just feel like. Take DreamWorks is like the celebrity show, where Pixar is more. I mean, the best Pixar. Obviously, there's shit like Cars. It's not for me, but like I don't think Pixar would make something like Boss Baby.
No, you're exactly right. I think Pixar, DreamWorks especially, comes down to even in the advertising. Jack Black is Kung Fu Panda, is Poe, or Jerry Seinfeld is a bee that fucks a grown woman. Yeah, it's a really
It was a bad time to take a sip of water.
But it's a really I guess celebrity focused sort of push. Yeah. But that being said, I don't know. They're Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon, and the first Shrek 1, 2, and then I'm just going to skip to the second, Puss in Boots. Are great sort of universes that DreamWorks has built. Like How to Train Your Dragon is renowned as one of the greatest like animated trilogies. Just because one, the way it looks, but two, I mean, I love the story and it's getting a live action. I don't know. I think that when it comes to sort of DreamWorks, if anything, I can watch them more comfortably as an adult. I think DreamWorks has a lot more misses though. Like I'm not going to sit here and watch Trolls or like
really?
I'm not going to watch.
You're not going to watch Shark Tale?
No, I'll watch Shark Tale.
But yeah, to Kung Fu Panda, I've seen this film a lot. I think it's a great film. I think it's in fact, give me a second. I've got a list of my 100 favorite animated films, and I've got to see where, because Kung Fu Panda's on that list, and I like lists. So Let me find where it is. But yeah, it premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, which I just read, which is interesting because that seems like it's like how Indiana Jones premiered at Cannes, or
I think Shrek 2
Elemental.
Too.
That's because I don't associate the Cannes Film Festival with
like DreamWorks.
Animation. Like it was only not that.
Also,
like
the
Dream
movie did.
That is interesting.
No, genuinely, Jerry Seinfeld showed up in a bee costume to Cannes. That was like a big thing.
But yeah, Kung Fu Panda. I'm gonna be completely honest. I think this series peaks with the first film, and then it all sort of goes downhill afterwards.
That's a bad take.
I think the first one's the best. I think it's a gradual decline, but I think they're all very good. But the first one I think is, I dare I say, a masterpiece. The first film.
First one's a 10 out of 10. Second one is like
I would agree with that rating.
Second one's like a 15 out of 10. and then the third's like an 8. Like it's a great peak, come down.
I hit it with a 10, a 9, and an 8. So I think it's a very very solid.
Just giving the ratings away.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Kung Fu Panda is number 41 on my top 100 animated films.
I do remember seeing this film in theaters when I was like 4 or 5, and I just remember being so blown away by it. I vividly remember seeing the Tai Lung Escape in theaters and just like being amazed by it.
I definitely, because I remember seeing 2 and 3 in the cinema, and I have to imagine I saw the first one because I would have been about like 4 or 5 years old, so I would have been like, but I think this first one, it's great. This is one of the best Pixar films, I think. Not Pixar, fucking hell. One of the best Dreamworks. It's early. It's not that early. It's like nearly. It's 11. I wouldn't go that far, but it's probably top 5. It's probably top 5. It's definitely top 5. I think
it goes Shark Tale number 1. No, but you've got Mega. You've got to think. You've got Megamind. You've got the new Puss in Boots. You've got Shrek 2. You've got one of the Madagascar films, I think, or How to Train Your Dragon. You've got Turbo. Do you remember that film? Not many people do.
No one remembers.
Over the Hedge is my 3rd favorite DreamWorks film.
Okay. And
actually,
is Shrek and How to Train Your Dragon above it?
Technically 4th if you count Were-Rabbit. If you count Were-Rabbit, it's 4th. No, it's How to Train Your Dragon, Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Puss in Boots 2.
I'll give my little like rundown. I think this is like a perfect like underdog hero's journey type of story. Like I think it's one of the most well done versions in modern cinema. Like just the Poe is such a good subversion of that as like a trope, and just the fact that it's just like it's very simple where a kid could love it, but I feel like it's also like pretty deep in its thematic. Like I mean, it's very simple in like those themes, but I think it explores them in a really beautiful way. The music obviously is like incredible. Like I think one of the best scores of the decade.
If we're talking about the music, I'm gonna say something potentially controversial. I don't know. The score for Kung Fu Panda, top 10 greatest film scores of all time. Maybe top 5.
I agree. I agree. That's your first good take all day.
I genuinely like. I've re-listened to 2 tracks, and I was putting together a list of what I would consider like the greatest. I was putting together a list of like what I would consider the best pieces of film score, and Oogway Sen's is 5th for me of all time.
It's amazing.
But the bridge battle, the score and like the bridge battle with the 5 and Tai Lung's escape from the prison, and then there's like the final Poe versus Tai Lung fight, but like it's all incredible. Like Hans Zimmer, I think Hans Zimmer's he's not like my old. To be honest, I love a lot of Hans Zimmer's music, but he's not like in my top 5 favorite composers. But he would be like 5th for me in terms of like top 5 composers. He's number 5. But like when Hans Zimmer cooks, he really fucking cooks.
It's phenomenal. That's exactly the word I was going to use. You're breathtaking. No, it is really good. Yeah, I think Kung Fu Panda is so important to animation because it is one of the first examples of Western animation really sort of experimenting on like different colors. I mean, you watch Kung Fu Panda, the beginning of the film is dreamlike and it looks completely different to those sort of dreams when they're describing things. It's gorgeous. And then you play that into the score and it's beautiful. I think the 3rd movie, I just really like Kai's theme. That
Imagine Dragons,
right? Yeah, it sounds really cool when he's like swinging the chains around. And it's obviously like, that's straight up fucking Omni-Man. Yeah, I think, it's the first example of a big Western sort of animation really experimenting, especially coming off of the B movie. I think the B movie was the film just before this one. I'm like 99% sure.
You're probably right.
I think this came out in like 2008, and the B movie came out in the end of 2007.
Yeah, I think Shrek 3 was also the year before as well. But yeah, I think in terms of animation, you see nowadays so many studios are doing I don't want to say a ripping off Into the Spider-Verse, but they're clearly being like, oh, Into the Spider-Verse like could do something cool with animations. And now a lot of Puss in Boots did something very unique with its animation. You know, the new Ninja Turtles is doing that, you know, but Kung Fu Panda, I feel like a lot of animation around this time, I don't want to say it all looked the same, but it was very rare to see something so different. And like certain sequences in Kung Fu Panda, like the opening, like you mentioned,
it was soft, round, bubbly, and bright. That's what animation was. And then you can see them sort of really starting to experiment with it here. I mean, they did try when they did Flushed Away with Aardman. Flushed Away I really like Flushed Away, but there's something almost uncanny valley about it. I think Kung Fu Panda they really find the sort of hits in the animation. I think number 2 improves on that. And then number 3, I mean, it's not, nor is it better or worse. I just find
there's some breathtaking sequences in this first film. Except the score. That's a beautifully animated scene. I love how the different like movements of each character are. Like Po is very like there's also what I have a problem with, and I don't mean this as a pun, so I apologize, but like Po has a really good weight to him, like his physicality, like how he's like you kind of feel like how like there's like a feeling of like there's a really good like gravity to the animation, which is like a weird thing to point out, but I feel like the third movie doesn't have that, so it made me appreciate it more at the first two. Like when he punches like the dummy, like you feel the dummy, like it's kind of like really the animation is really impressive. It hasn't aged bad.
I think it's and like you know you see animation. I mean, fucking hell, I mean, I haven't seen Wish, but I've seen clips of Wish, and I'm like that animation already looks terrible. And Kung Fu Panda is a film from 15 years ago, and it still looks great. Like you could release that today, and it would look just as good. Like if you like that film, I would not think anything of it. I'd be like, oh, that animation looks a bit bad. Like every scene, like probably my favorite shot in the entire film is during Tai Lung's escape. And there's just that great shot where he's going upwards and they fired all the arrows down, and it's just a beautiful just sea of red. It's like that is one of those shots that's like I just want a painting of that to just hang up in my house somewhere. Like it's one of those like where every frame, where like that frame, that could just be a painting and it would be a phenomenal, you know, like, and it's truly, and just, the animation. And of course, Oogway's ascent is a beauty, you know, it's so much vibrant use of color. And I think, combining that with the score, I think, because score for me can really make or break a film in terms of how it's used or how it's not. Like some films like don't really, like some films overuse score. It's like, okay, we don't need that much score. We need sort of a subtle episode. We just don't need anything. But this
absolutely, yeah.
But like I was listening to some of the tracks earlier, and I could just visualize the scenes as they were happening. Like I was listening to like the bridge battle score, and I could just watch and I could just visualize that scene, like all the, you know, like it's and I think that's what good music should be able to do. I think a lot of the time score, like good score, you know, should be able to help you visualize something, you know, in the film. Do we want to talk about the cast? Because there's quite a few lots of names.
Just quickly, we were mentioning animation and score, but something to really, and this sort of plays into the cast because it touches on the Furious Five. And let me know if I am wrong here, but they really do their research to make sure that they're not being ignorant in this film. They're obviously the joke about like the noodles and the fireworks, like that's all quite obviously over dramatic. But you take in the different styles of kung fu, like the different disciplines, which is you got praying mantis, you got, I think it's like serpent, which is snake. You got monkey, tiger, crane, and then the last one, which is dragon, Po. But I think even doing that and just having that as the Furious Five main characters and seeing the way they're animated, like Seth Rogen is a fucking praying mantis, but he moves really like you would think a praying mantis would move. It's really sort of sharp and twitchy, and they've animated that really well compared to Crane or compared to which looks quite fluid. I think they do it really well, especially with a lot going on, to be able to individually maintain the principles of each character's animation, because they all have to be animated slightly differently. awesome.
Yeah, they give all of them enough. Like they're not the most the most developed character. Like it feels like in terms of developed characters, you get Poe, you get Shifu and Tigress, and then the other five. They're not bad characters, but they do feel they're not nearly as developed as characters. So they're not bad characters. You know, when you've got all these characters, because there's so many characters you need to. Because, you know, you've got Poe, you've got Shifu, you've got Tai Lung, and then you've got the 5. You know, it's 8 characters. Plus, there's also Oogway. Plus, there's Mr. Ping. You know, like, you've got all these characters to try and, you know, balance. Yeah, so I think it's, you know, but the fact that none of the characters really feel forgotten about, really, like, they all get moments throughout the course of the film.
I guess the only one would be Monkey, but that's because he doesn't speak.
I do also like how, you know, American films, obviously, but I do feel like it never feels like culture appropriation with the whole, like, you know, Chinese heritage, like, being kind of set around, like, Chinese culture. It feels, and again, like, maybe this isn't, like, you know, obviously the first 2 weren't, like, involve like a Chinese production company. I think the third one was, but I do think it feels really genuine and like well researched. Yeah. Well, like it feels very much done with love rather than like ignorant Americans trying to make a film set in China. Yeah. Like, it feels very respectful. And it's
like they did the research on like, okay, how do we pay respect? Like, how do we respect this culture? You know, it's not trying to be. It's not. Yeah, but so to get on to the cast, we've got Jack Black, who I think is incredibly likable, just inherently. Mm-hmm. I just like Jack Black, who the fuck doesn't? And I think he gives a really good performance. Like, I feel like, because I always find Jack Black funny, and I'm it's interesting because he's never gone down that sort of fucking Will Ferrell role of like, because Jack Black kind of does the same thing in a lot of things, but it doesn't become annoying in a way that I think it like does with Will Ferrell, for example. As much as I do like Jack Black, he is kind of doing the same thing and everything, which isn't a problem because he is good at it, and I think he's a comedic actor. I don't think he needs to be doing anything that special or unique, really, but I think he brings a real likability to this part, and it's interesting to see this just sort of earnest character, like, you know, it's this he's an incredibly earnest, quite likable character who just you want to see do well and get a happy ending by the end of it.
I do think there's like, for a set of films that feel really mature emotionally and also thematically, I do find some jokes fall flat, which is fine. It's not like a major issue. Like the whole recurring joke of him saying like the brand of it being like awesomeness, and like him saying awesome, like a lot of like really like I don't know, like middle school buzzwords. It can get like, it doesn't, I don't know, it feels a little dated at some points to me with that kind of humor, but it doesn't bring down the film much. But it is something where it does kind of take me out of like what the rest of the film is going for. It's kind of like, you know, like a really well done ode to like martial arts cinema. Like, there's a lot of clear influences the film is taking from. I really think those, like, watching it now as an adult, it definitely comes through more, which I think are really well done. I think the action just in general is incredible. Like, I think the action here is better than like something like Spider-Verse. Like, I think it's just really impressive and really like grounded. Like, I don't know, I really love like the bridge fight. There's like so many great scenes that really stick out.
Final battle between Poe and Tai Lung, which is fantastic because it's a perfect culmination of everything that had been, you know, previously established. You know, there's the game with the, like, he's got like the scroll underneath the walks or whatever, and I think Ian McShane's vocal performance is fantastic. I think
it's great.
He has that. He just has a voice that, like,
it has gravitas.
He could read the phone book to you, and it would be an incredibly engaging. Like, he just has that voice that's like, you know, he's one of those actors.
I also love James
like Christopher Lee. You know, like you would hear Christopher Lee, and like he just has that gravitas. And it's interesting because I don't love Tai Lung as a villain. I think. I do like what he is, and I do like a lot of what they do. I just didn't quite connect with him as a character as I did with Gary Oldman's character in the second one, but we'll get to that later.
I actually prefer Tai Lung to Gary Oldman, but that's interesting.
Powerful villain, but it also isn't unbelievable that he loses. Like, I think the film does a remarkably good job of establishing him as this really powerful villain, but then he can lose, and it makes like total sense. Again, I think that final battle is probably it's great because it's so much fun, and it genuinely, and it's a believable way for it, because I think sometimes you can watch a film and you're just like, oh, how do we beat this imposing villain? And then they just kind of get beaten by the main character quite easily, and it doesn't feel earned, like because you establish the villain as this tough, really difficult to face threat. But Tai Lung, it's believable that he loses.
No, you're right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll speak on the second movie and third film's final sort of, I guess, battles when they come. But I think this one's kind of battle by chance. Both, for a lot of it, they're both just chasing after one thing, trying to stop the other. When it comes to it, and obviously there's a butt joke in it, and because it's an animated film, but and that was the culture. But you've got, I don't know, it's literally, he literally beats him by just grabs his finger and flicks his pinky. It's not anything it's a great callback. It lasts, like, the actual fight is like 2 or 3 minutes of actual on-screen time. Yeah, whereas the rest of it is just sort of build up around it, and then when nothing happens and you go, oh, Poe just is the Dragon Warrior. Whereas I think and I think that works really well for the first film if you intend to make a second film. But if that was the entire film, if that was the entire story, I don't love it. But the fact that the second film exists improves the first film to me.
I give it a very sturdy 8 out of 10. I think it's great. Yeah, the score is phenomenal. All the voice acting is great. It's genuinely quite funny. It's quite emotional. I think I can listen to the Oogway Ascends music and can get a lump in my throat. That's how effective that score is. It's great. I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's a great film.
Yeah, I'd hit this with the full 5 stars.
Yep, I'm going to give it a 9. It could be rain, hail, or shine, and I could bloody chuck on this film at any point. I could literally be any age. This film is always just hit. Not once has I ever been, oh, you're watching Kung Fu Panda, can we watch something else? It's like, no, it's like, hell yeah, we're watching Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
That was always, and I sit there and I'm just like, again, it's something about being just so distinctly different. I'm of the opinion that this entire trilogy is better than the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, and that's like a little battle that Dreamworks fans have. I think just with the animation and the culture and the story, it's really good. So I gave it a 9 to leave room for Kung Fu Panda 2.
Kung Fu Panda 2, yeah. So Kung Fu Panda 2. This film's interesting to me because I feel like this falls under the same bracket. I'm about to say something potentially controversial. This falls under the same bracket of Shrek 2 for me, in that there is a vocal group of people, especially online, who think the second film is better than the first film. Like, people, Shrek 2 is better than the first one, and Kung Fu Panda 2 is better than the first one. And I very much disagree with that. I do not. I think the first Shrek film is better than Shrek 2. Apparently, that's controversial, even though I think it is.
You're inviting me here onto your podcast, William. Body slam. Okay, go.
And then I don't think Kung Fu Panda 2 is.
I'm with you, William. I'm with you.
But I think Kung Fu Panda 2, the thing that gives it the edge over the first one is it a more emotionally gripping film. Because to be completely honest, I like the idea of Shifu, of him and Tai Lung, but to be completely honest, and I do prefer the first film more, but I think Poe's backstory and that sequence where he catches the raindrops, and that is a fantastic sequence in an otherwise not amazing movie. Yeah. Not bad movie, just not. I think that scene is so much better than everything else in it.
Yeah, I think this is the ideal sequel. Not saying it's a perfect film, not saying it's the best sequel ever. But I do think that it builds on the first one, it deepens the characters, and it doesn't repeat the story of the first one. I think it's exactly what you'd want from a sequel. It's not the same level of quality, but I think it's as good of a sequel as I could want. Because I'm not really a big sequel person in general.
As a sequel, I like a full story. You'd say as a sequel, it's perfect. It is the perfect sequel, but it's not a perfect movie. Which
the idea of how they structure the 3 trilogies, not the 3 trilogies, the 3 films. So the first film, the main conflict isn't really it's Tai Lung, but the main conflict is Poe overcoming what's in front of him about his identity. Who is he in the world of Kung Fu? How is he the Dragon Warrior? In the second film, it is who is Poe as a character and his past.
Yeah.
Like, who is Poe? And then the third film is who is he as a panda? Who is he as sort of his family? So it goes to looking forward, then to looking back, then to sort of in the middle of both. Whereas he has his two sort of families combine and use their hands to master the chi, and that bit was sort of cringe to me. But the second film, the art, like it is almost triggering, like seeing some of the bits of Poe as a baby sitting in that crate, where it cuts back to him and the symbols and the flashing, and it's quite intense. But then you've also got the amazing, I think one of the greatest villains, Shen. I think the greatest villain of all time period ever written is Iago from Othello. That, or like the mean fish from Shark Tale, the sharks. I think that when you have a character like Shen who's literally just driven by hate and power. He has no other driving factor. It's hate and power. He's a bit insecure. It's pure concentrated evil. There's no nice backstory. You don't go, what made him bad? You go, this guy's bad. And the way that I also think the final battle, the whole him with the cannonball and the water drop and inner peace is really quite awesome, because it's now confronting what his trauma, again, just got like in relation to who he is, to find who he is as a character and as a person, or a bear or a panda. I just find that, it tackles a much larger conflict in the scale. The first film's really great in relation to like being the Dragon Warrior, whereas this film is really great into, okay, how does this, every character has a past, and we cut into him being like, I don't know, what, 25? Yeah. So I think, the tackling of that is done really well.
Gary, because I think Tai Lung as a character arguably is more interesting, because it's like because with Shen,
he's a driving
really
factor.
Where Shen sort of, there isn't a whole lot really of like, oh, he's just evil, but like, I don't know, I kind of am happy when a film is just like, no, let's just have an unabashedly evil villain who just like wants to commit panda genocide. Like that's the entire plot of this movie, is this guy just wants to kill every single panda. Because I think with animation, not all animation, but sometimes animation does kind of pull its punches a little bit too much. Not all the time, but I think it's sometimes I'm like, oh man, we really could have just gone a little bit, like, because this, kids can enjoy this film, and might be a bit scary for kids, but like, I think animation, it's interesting how much animation can actually really get away with in terms of like what they can do. Because again, this is a film where he just wants to kill every panda, and I think animation the first Shrek film, there's some really dark moments in Shrek. I think Gary Oldman, a fantastic vocal performance in this. Again, he just has that voice of like, again, Kung Fu Panda films, they're really good at getting good voice actors, get good actors with great voices for films. Because then there's J.K. Simmons in Kung Fu Panda 3. He has a great design as well, like just the contrasting white and red and black. Like, I think it's the animation is fantastic in this film. You sort of get those flashback sequences with sort of the sort of, I don't know, sort of more jagged, sort of rougher animation.
The flashback is beautiful.
It's a beautifully animated film. I don't know if I think it's as beautifully animated as the first film, but I think it's still a very well animated film. I don't know. I just didn't enjoy watching it as much. Like, I think the first, I don't know, and it's not because it's too, I don't know why. I just didn't enjoy this film as much. I was not able to. There's a lot of ideas that I really love. Like it's a very tragic film when you just like look at it. Like Poe was abandoned as a baby, and I'm like, that is that's really powerful, but it just doesn't quite work for me. And I get this a lot with films where I'm like, oh, this is so close to getting me emotional and getting into it, and it just doesn't. And I can see how this film can make someone cry. Like, it is a powerful film. Like, it just does not connect with me in a way. Like, the first one, I think, something about the first one, I think, is more easy to connect with, for me anyway. I don't think this one I can connect to as well, personally.
I think it's one of those cases where, like, the first one had something to prove, like the first one's like, yeah, this is a Kung Fu Panda movie, and let us show you that it's actually like something that's really like great
it's
and well
kind
done.
of a dumb title. Like, it's a bit of a like, oh,
it's a very dumb title.
A film called Kung Fu Panda is going to be a good film, and then it just comes out.
And then
it's great,
And then the second one, I feel like, is kind of just like coasting on what the first movie did well, and it does it well still, but it doesn't have that same what's the word for it? I don't know the word I'm trying to get at here, but it doesn't have the same like energy or urgency.
It's not sort of like, it's not punching up at something. Like, it doesn't have anything, like, because everyone knows the first one's great, so they're like, well, we don't have to, I don't want to say try as hard, because that sounds insulting, but they're like, they don't have to prove themselves as much.
Yeah, 100%. And it just kind of is like, it's doing what the first movie did well, instead of, in my opinion, doesn't introduce a lot that would spice it up more. I mean, it does introduce like his backstory more, which again, it deepens what the first movie sets up. But I guess it doesn't have as much of a like, it doesn't set up as much intrigue as the first movie did. It just kind of deepens what the first movie already sets up. And I think it's still great. I still really like the second one. I don't have much to say on it beyond kind of what you guys have said, and also just like what I said I liked about the first one.
Because these are very, to touch on the whole trilogy, they're very philosophical films. Like, a lot of the best moments
definitely
aren't even it's just the philosophy. And like, and I think, you see the different stuff, when they're talking, when Oogway and Shifu are talking under the peach tree, and it's, they're talking all about that. And I think this is a film, and again, there's clear love and respect for the culture that they are portraying. Like, there's no, that they have a genuine love for what they're doing. And I think if you're going to make a film, because, some are films that are dealing with different cultures just don't, like, you can see, like, the love they have for the culture and the respect for it.
I do like that Oogway comes back in the third movie. It's kind of like, I mean, not to segue to the third movie, but I guess I don't know, but I do like that. I do like the idea of it being a trilogy, which, I don't know, I'm kind of a person, when there's a set trilogy, it makes it more like, okay, the second's the middle act, the third is the final act. And how he comes back to kind of give Poe his like Poe's final, I guess, like set of lessons he needs to learn. He kind of adds a good finale to the arc that Poe goes on.
I mean, do we want to move on? I just want to say before we move on to the third one, again, I think the action sequences are great. And again, that final action sequence where they're firing the cannonballs at Poe, and he like catches them and throws them, like,
it's
just
amazing.
the way those cannonballs are, just the animation and the color. Again, these films, the colors, like, animation. I think animation is the supreme form of storytelling, because you can do whatever the fuck you want with it. Like, it is like, you can do anything with animation, and that's why I would take it over live action, just because live action, you are limited by like reality. There's only so much you can do. But yeah, I just think it's, again, I give the second one a 7 out of 10. It's good. I like it. I will watch it again, but I don't love it.
It's a 10. It's a 10 because it improves on a lot of what I think the first film touches on. I think it builds quite well. I think the climax is great. I think even the story, or the main part of them being sort of prisoned in the city or imprisoned, I like how Poe directly speaks to Shen before the big fight, and they're not even really fighting at the time. But I think it balances the comedy really well, because this is a much, much more sort of serious film. The first one was really quite serious, but it was more of a philosophical question, whereas this one is much more like confronting. That being said, I think it keeps a balance between the humor and keeping the kids engaged, which unfortunately is just what animation was. I think it's had a large shift recently, though. But then you take sort of like Gary Oldman and some of the performances into account. I've never hated a peacock more. But yeah, it is also just gorgeous. You get the whole the whole really fucking alpha moment where Poe, is catching the cannonballs as water drops and throwing them back at him. Sort of using his own, which is symbolic for using his own ammo against him. But I think it really, in the terms of the trilogy, it's a 10 out of 10. It's amazing. As its own individual film, I reckon it's around that 9 to 10 still. With the fourth film, I worry that it will bring down these other films with its shit.
I would hit the second one with a 9 out of 10.
The third one, let's be honest, there's not as much to say on this third one.
No,
I
good.
think we could agree it's good, but I think we can all agree it's the worst one, right? Well, until Shrek, unless Kung Fu Panda 4 is like great.
It's the worst one, but not because it's bad. Like,
yeah,
no,
it's just the weakest of the third.
Yeah, exactly. It's like how
it is kind of a disappointing.
The third Back to the Future is the weakest Back to the Future film, not because it's a bad film, but because 1 and 2 are so good.
I do think that the third Kung Fu Panda is kind of like a step down in animation from the first two, which
it's a bit softer.
It is. It kind of just
disagree.
Like confines to like the kind of tropes of what animation looked like in 2016. I feel like it doesn't have like how I mentioned with the weight earlier, it wasn't as much like the gravity to how like the action scenes work. And I do like the scenes in like Heaven or wherever the fuck they were with Uruguay. I thought those are really beautiful. But
like
I do think that the like I don't know, I just feel like it's a disappointing for like leaving on a cliffhanger as the second one does. I don't think it really satisfies what you would kind of hope that cliffhanger would. I don't know, just kind of like the Panda clan that he ends up joining is just kind of goofy.
Yeah,
I don't know. It just doesn't fully like answer to the questions the first and second one set up. But I still do like it. I think it's fun. I think it has the same good action, the same funny moments, and I like Bryan Cranston. It's cool to see him as the dad.
I had seen this is the second time for the purpose of this is the second time I'd seen Kung Fu Panda 3. I'd seen the other two multiple times over, because I think that basically gives my feelings on Kung Fu Panda 3. But I mean, first of all, you got J.K. Simmons as the villain, and
Kai, and I think he does a great job for what he's given.
I think J.K. Simmons again. Although every time I hear J.K. Simmons, I just think of Whiplash. That's why I think he's such an effective villain, because at any moment I'm just like, oh, is he about to start swearing at Poe? Yeah, he just got that voice where J.K. Simmons is weird in that he could simultaneously be like a very likable, quite affable guy, but he can also just be really fucking terrifying. Like I think that's a sign of a good actor, that like they can play both and both are totally believable. And I think Kai is a bit underdeveloped as a villain, but I still think J.K. Simmons gives a really great performance. Like again, it's sort of similar how I felt with Tai Lung, in that Ian McShane gives a great vocal performance, and even if I don't think Tai Lung is the most engaging villain, it's still a great performance, and I think Kai is the same. I honestly found a lot of the returning voice cast to be kind of like, okay, they're just kind of not. I don't know. I feel like this one,
they're not really here. Yeah.
Besides Tigress, it's like Toy Story 4, where like most of the characters in Toy Story 4 are kind of forgotten about. I don't know if that's because some of the actors had died, and they were just like, we kind of just don't want to have them in this movie.
Only Don Rickles had passed.
But I don't know. I think beyond Poe, Tigress, Kai, and the new characters, like Shifu. Actually, I think Mr. Ping actually gets. Because Ping is sort of like a bit of a side. He's a bit of a forgotten element of those. Not forgotten, but he's not a big part of the other two. But he's much more of a character in this one, and he's got the story to be more of a character. It's like the whole, Poe,
the dad,
who is Poe's dad? It's like, well, it's okay to have two dads. Some people do have two dads, and it's fine. Like it's not a. But I think it does create, a good character, because it's like the film doesn't come together as well. Like it feels like I don't know. I feel like like I mentioned before, the first two had these really deep philosophical themes to it, and I don't think this one really does. Certainly not to
the extent.
degree.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't have the, and it's the one that I don't see myself watch. Like, I can watch 1 and 2. I could be happy to watch either of those on any day. The third one, I'd only ever watch if I'm gonna like marathon the trilogy.
I like the third one, but I don't take it nearly as seriously as the first two. I can watch the third one, but like I'll get a snack and I'll be like, oh, it's a bit of fun. Like, look at these goofy pandas rolling around, and it's set in a universe that I like, but I just don't find. Like, I think it delves into the idea of post-past really well, but we kind of did that. But it's in a way less confronting sort of manner. It's more so sort of mastering chi, I guess. Also, it's good. It's a fun watch, but it's not like great in the grand scheme of the films.
And it's like, just the action I don't find as engaging. It feels like it's trying to do the emotional stuff that the first two did well, but it just doesn't work. It feels a bit unearned on this one. It's kind of like how it's sort of like, with it got to a point with like Pixar where they're like, okay, we know what we can do to get people emotional, like it's but it whereas this one is sort of doesn't work really as much for me personally, and I don't. But again, I don't dislike it. It's a film that I'm happy to watch.
Yeah.
I just would never go out of my way to watch it. I would never, I'd never go out of my way to watch the film. I give it a very a lower 7 out of 10.
I agree. I'll give it about a mid to.
Hey, can you hear me?
I'd give it about a mid to a 7 to 8. 7.
I would give this a solid 8 out of 10. I think it is still a good entry in the trilogy. I think it's a good closer to it, but I don't think it has the same magic of the original.
No, it feels like it's missing something. We're talking about this film tied to the release of Kung Fu Panda 4.
No.
I'm going to be completely honest. I'm really concerned. I'm
worried.
Yeah,
because I watched the trailer and I'm like, okay, first of all, Awkwafina's in it. And look, I've got nothing against Awkwafina as like a person.
I
just find her appearance in things to be very grating now.
It's like in 2018 when The Rock and Kevin Hart were in fucking everything and you couldn't escape it. And I was like, oh my god.
And it's like how Pedro Pascal is sort of like that, where Pedro Pascal's just in fucking everything.
And now he's going to be Reed Richards.
Kung Fu Panda 4. It's it's got all the returning cast, like you got Jack Black, you got Dustin Hoffman, Angelina, you got James Hong in there, and then you've got Viola Davis is apparently the villain, which I'm not against. I like Viola Davis.
So the character is the villain is called the Chameleon.
But I'm just really worried about this, man. It
doesn't sound promising.
It's probably not going to be that good, but we'll talk about it in the review of the year because, so thank you all for listening to this week's episode. It's a bit shorter, but it's going to be, next week, fucking going to be long. It's going to be a long fucking episode next week. Harry, thank you for joining me after a very long hiatus.
I should be good to go now, though. I need to buy a new desk because I'm going to send you guys a photo of my current setup I'm running.
But yeah, Harry will be able to start doing episodes again, like on a more regularly. And thank you also, Ben, for joining, for coming back to do this. Yeah. And Harry, did you have anything you wanted to plug or not really? I imagine probably not.
Everyone, call your mothers. Brush your teeth. Merry Christmas.
I'll just plug my podcast, the Taste of Film podcast. We discuss movies like this one and food. So yeah, it's a good time over there. And William will be on there sometime soon. So yeah.
But yeah, thank you all for listening. I hope you all enjoyed. And I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.